Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving Up Live right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. As always, I'm Bryson Carver, and we got a big trade in the National Football League that broke yesterday. Finally, the Baker Mayfield Browns saga comes to an end. I'll, of course, lead the show with that. Obviously, Chet Holmgren as well in the Summer League with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Wasn't as high on Chet Holmgren, certainly as I was in Jabari Smith, and even in some cases, Paolo Banchero, who went number one to the Orlando Magic. But Chet has had his highs and has had his lows in his first two Summer League games. I'll talk about that, as well as Lamar Jackson. I'll talk at the end of the show about him. Man, he has made some improvements to his body. I was talking about Dak the other day, looking great physically. Lamar, I could argue, looks even better. I'll talk about that as well. Also, Sabrina Ionescu. Shout out Sabrina Ionescu. Going to talk some WNBA. I said back in 2020, before she was even drafted, she'd be the greatest female basketball player of all time. She's showing that once again, and I'll explain that and discuss that later in the show, as well as Trey Lance. Am I willing to now sell my Trey Lance stock after I was so high on him in 2021 coming out of North Dakota State in the draft? I'll discuss that later in the show. But first, the number one story right now in the National Football League is Baker Mayfield, who was traded from the Cleveland Browns to the Carolina Panthers for a fifth-round pick. Now, this is once again another instance of the Browns screwing up their draft picks because they traded a guy who was the number one overall pick in the 2018 draft for a fifth-round selection 4 years after they drafted him. It's classic Cleveland Browns. But Baker Mayfield more specifically, it's funny, I actually talked on Monday about Baker and why I didn't think that he had played his last game as a Brown. That, of course, aged poorly. But my thing was, okay, if Deshaun Watson is suspended for the year, stick with Baker. He knows the playbook better than Jacoby Brissett, right? He's more comfortable in the offense, but that's not the case. And right now, it's looking like there could be a chance, even though I frankly disagree with the decision. If it does come to pass, there's a chance Deshaun Watson may not be suspended at all. But that's, we'll get to that once that, really fully materializes. But Baker Mayfield, again, we all know, Heisman Trophy winner in his senior year at Oklahoma. He's a two-time walk-on at Texas Tech, then at Oklahoma. It was actually there they called him Baker Touchdown Maker, which is quite the nickname. I've actually got a new nickname for him later in the segment. But, of course, he goes to the Browns. They win, I think, 6-7 games his rookie year. He actually breaks Peyton Manning's record for the most touchdown passes by a rookie in NFL history. He breaks the record. I believe Justin Herbert stole that record and broke that Baker's record a couple of years back in his rookie season in 2020. But the Browns go into 2019 with sky-high expectations. They trade for Odell Beckham Jr. They trade for the great pass rusher Olivier Vernon, and it's an absolute train wreck. Baker Mayfield is second in the NFL in interceptions to Jameis Winston, and the Browns go 6-10, and Baker is out of shape. He's getting even more snappy with the press, which we knew that was the case even coming into the league. 2020, not that high of expectations of the Browns. They get a massive upgrade at head coach from Freddie Kitchens to Kevin Stefanski. What do you know? The Browns make the playoffs. Baker plays well. I think he only threw 2 interceptions down the stretch, like the last 10 games or so. Played really good football, turnover-free football. Played within the Browns system, running the football with Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. And the Browns made the playoffs. They didn't just make the playoffs. They beat badly their rival Pittsburgh Steelers at Heinz Field. Now, it was a COVID year, so home field advantage wasn't as big, but they still beat Pittsburgh in what ended up being Big Ben's last home playoff game. And they come into this season with high expectations. And I said, look, Cleveland feels like a wild card team to me. And Baker Mayfield has, if it weren't for 2019, the worst season of his career. Multiple games on a silver platter for Baker. Browns defense plays phenomenal. Myles Garrett, sacks the quarterback like 5 times. I think he had a game where he had like 5 sacks against Minnesota, and the Browns only put up 14 points. Still found a way to win the game because, again, their defense was phenomenal. But games like Christmas Day, just go watch the film Christmas Day against the Green Bay Packers. Baker was atrocious. Threw 4 interceptions, was just inaccurate all day. Had a game against the Ravens on Sunday night where he was abysmal. I mean, the defense and running game were often keeping the Browns in these games, and yet Baker Mayfield could not deliver them home. Because he is what I said he is. He's a starter. He's a starting quarterback in the NFL. That said, he is not a franchise guy. I strongly question the leadership intangibles. This is a guy who's taking shots. Obviously, we know at media, but quarterbacks have done that before. It's, I don't love it by the quarterback. From anyone else, I don't care. It's fine. Do what you want to do. But quarterback, different story. I look at you in terms of maturity, and maybe this is unfair because, a lot of these guys are 20-year-olds, but has like the same level as a head coach. And Baker Mayfield often was not that. He's more mature than a rookie wide receiver in some cases. Leadership intangibles. His arm is, it's fine. It's serviceable. It's not going to blow you away. His accuracy has gone down in recent years. It was not good last season. For anyone talking about, well, the shoulder was injured. He has left one. What is Baker Mayfield Matt Leinart now? I didn't know he's a left-handed quarterback. There's no excuse. Tom Brady won the Super Bowl a couple years ago on a torn MCL. Odell Beckham Jr., Baker's former receiver, who, we heard all year from the Baker defenders, it's Odell's fault. Baker's not playing well, and Odell leaves, goes to the Rams, and wins the Super Bowl. It's none of my business. But Odell, according to him, don't know if it's true or not, but Odell played last season with a partially torn ACL. That's why it fully tore in the Super Bowl against the Bengals. Because we did know this beforehand. Odell had a pretty bad surgery when he was in Cleveland in 2020 on that torn ACL. Played through it, played well. Plenty of guys have played through injuries and done a really good job. Baker Mayfield, absolute disaster. Accuracy went down. We know his arm is it's fine. The thing for Baker Mayfield is you can win games with him if you put him in a system that is run first. Check, Cleveland. You put him in a system where you've got good possession-type receivers. Check, Jarvis Landry was there. A system where there's a good defense. Check, Myles Garrett, one of the 3 or 4 best defensive players in football. And if he plays on script, right, he sticks to the system, you can make the playoffs, just like the Browns did in 2020. But if you're asking Baker in a game that's not perfect to win, it's not your guy. That's the thing with Baker Mayfield, is that these circumstances have to be perfectly ideal. But if you're on the road, trailing by double digits in a playoff game, Kansas City, it's not his game. Even in that playoff game, when Patrick Mahomes goes down in the third quarter, does not return. We know, man, this is a quarterback's league. I said it all year last year. I'll say it again this coming season. It is a quarterback's league. That said, it's Baker Mayfield for the Browns versus Chad Henne for the Kansas City Chiefs, replacing an injured Patrick Mahomes. Chad Henne gave Baker a turnover, threw a pick in the end zone to Carl Joseph, I believe it was. Baker's down in the game, down 1 score, has a chance to take the lead, and they get 1 first down and don't get the ball back. That's Baker Mayfield. Starter in a good system. But he's going to Carolina now. And you thought it was a disaster in Cleveland? You just wait. You just wait till Carolina and how this all shakes out. Here's why. First of all, Carolina Panthers players didn't even want Baker Mayfield. I think it's been well documented on social media. I think I even talked about it on the show when it happened back in April was when it was. Robbie Anderson commenting on a Panthers media or Panthers fan account, whatever it was, on Instagram that said, report, the Panthers are interested in Baker Mayfield. This was back in like April. And Robbie Anderson, a receiver for the Panthers, comments, no, like with multiple O's. Well, he's teammates now with Baker Mayfield. So we know if Robbie Anderson was just the one who was willing to go on social media and voice his concerns or his displeasures. You're telling me the whole locker room don't feel that same way either? Come on. Number 2. Yeah, is he going to a weaker division? Yes. Okay, the NFC South, in my view, is the worst division in football. And that is even with Tom Brady in the division, it's the worst division in football. Okay, Saints are fine. They might be a playoff team. Falcons might be the worst team in football. Panthers aren't far behind. Matt Rule, liked him when they hired him. Haven't seen enough in the first 2 years. Their best player, Christian McCaffrey, cannot stay healthy. I believe he's played like 10 games in 2 years. 10 games out of a possible 32. It's not going to work. Okay? Skilled position guys like DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, who I just mentioned, really talented, skill position players. But it doesn't matter if you don't have the guy who can get them the ball. Defense was excellent the first part of the season. Yeah, when they were playing the Jets and the Giants and crappy teams the first 3, and then they run into a good team, not a great team, but a good team, the Dallas Cowboys, and they get absolutely hammered. This is not a good football team, Carolina. And you're expecting Baker Mayfield to turn this around? the issues, you thought, Baker couldn't work in Cleveland, which we know it's a dysfunctional franchise. The ownership group is a clown show. But they hired a good general manager. The head coach, I think, is excellent, Kevin Stefanski. 2, not 1, 2 star running backs. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. Top 10 offensive line. Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, T. Higgins. Good tight ends, David Njoku. Defensively, Myles Garrett anchoring the defense. Couldn't even make the playoffs. The Cleveland Browns are one of the examples I've always used, or at least last season. You can have the perfect roster, which the Browns have the perfect roster. I said the Colts did, and Carson Wentz, threw that in the garbage. But you can have a close to perfect roster, which the Browns did. If you don't have that guy behind center, it means absolutely nothing. Likewise, if you have a roster that's in turmoil, that, a team, an organization that has controversy in a brutal division, but you have that guy, not just on the field, but emotionally off the field, leadership, Derek Carr, fixes everything. You make the playoffs. That's the story of the Cleveland Browns with Baker Mayfield. And you actually think he's going to succeed in Carolina? Listen, I think Baker is going to be the Panthers starter in week 1. I think he's going to beat Sam Darnold out. Sam Darnold, I don't even think, and I love Sam Darnold coming out of USC. Loved him. But he was in my low-end starter, high-end backup coming to last year. Now he's a backup. Okay, his decision-making is awful. His arm has seemingly gotten worse. It doesn't work. It doesn't work with Sam Darnold. Baker's better than Sam Darnold. So I think he's going to be the week 1 starter, ironically, against his old team, the Cleveland Browns. But I think by about week 7, 8, he gets replaced. And Baker goes into next season. He'll be a free agent next summer in 2023, and he will be a backup. So he is. He's a backup quarterback. Now that he lands in Carolina. This is not going to work. Baker's not the type of dude who can lift a franchise. We know this. Man can't even make the playoffs with Cleveland. Think he's going to do it in Carolina? No, it's not going to work. Got a few comments here. My man Philip and Grady, or my guys Philip and Grady are in the comments. Philip says, Baker has already shown he is a bust. I agree with that. He was the number 1 overall pick. Hasn't shown it. It kind of doesn't show that he has a ton because he is in a great situation, but is going to get really exposed in Carolina. Also, who do you think starts for the Panthers? Darnold, Baker. I do think Baker starts. I think Baker is better than Darnold. I love Darnold as a kid. He seemed like a good dude. Locker room really likes him. They liked him in New York with the Jets. But Baker is better than Sam Darnold, but that's not saying much. Darnold knows the playbook better, but I do think Baker is a quick learner. The thing with Baker, football IQ isn't really his issue. It's not. His decision-making is poor. It's not as bad as Sam's is. Decision-making off the field, atrocious. Atrocious. For a quarterback, terrible. It's about as bad as Cam Newton these days. Grady says, Tepper is among one of the worst owners in the league. Jerry Richardson was a good owner despite his flaws. He cut the check and the team was very consistent. Makes me sad because I grew up going to these games with Jake Delhomme and Steve Smith, and then later with Cam Newton and Luke Kuechly. Yeah, the Panthers were always a team obviously they were expansion team in the 90s, but, even being the young franchise that they are, coming into, the 21st century, obviously they made 2 Super Bowls. And they lost to Tom Brady, no shame in that. And they lost to an old Peyton Manning who was awful in that game, but they just so happened to be going against one of the better defenses in history, in my opinion, the 2015 Broncos. But yeah, I mean, Jerry Richardson. I mean, his issues are well documented. We don't have to get into that today. But yeah, I mean, the thing with him is, look, he to his credit, he did do a good job of hiring coaches. Dave Tepper feels like the typical businessman who doesn't have that much interest in football. He's one of those owners who's just he wants to buy a pro sports team, right? Every rich guy, every billionaire, they want to buy a pro sports team. Why is that? Because pro sports teams, you buy stock into that, it's never going away. You buy stock into Bitcoin these days. It's rough days for Bitcoin. Heck, there are NFL players who invest in Bitcoin. Saquon Barkley, they've had to pay dearly for that. NFL team ain't going nowhere. Now, maybe if it's a team that moves, like say, I don't know, the San Diego Chargers moving to Los Angeles, or the Oakland Raiders moving to Las Vegas, like maybe this sort of deal like that. I don't know if that hurts necessarily the investment. But yeah, pro sports teams aren't going anywhere. And so, but yeah, that's the type of owner that Dave Tepper feels like. So I do agree with you on that point, Grady. But this is going to be a disaster. I didn't get I should have, because I'm going to talk about the Ravens later. I got the Ravens schedule. I should have gotten the Panthers schedule. Let me find it on my phone, and I'll just read it off for you guys. Okay. So Carolina, of course, starts at home against Cleveland. That's a loss. Whether it's Deshaun Watson, whether it's Jacoby Brissett, that's a loss. Cleveland's a better football team. Then the Panthers go to New York to play the Giants. Giants tend to really stink early in the season. As a matter of fact, the Giants have not had a winning record since 2016. I'm talking about at any point in the season, they've never had a winning record since 2016, which is just crazy. So I'll give them a win against the Giants to go to 1-1. They'll lose at home to New Orleans. They'll lose at home to Arizona. That's 1-3. They will definitely lose at home to San Francisco, 1-4. They will get absolutely hammered at the Rams, 1-5. Beaten badly by Tampa, 1-6. They'll go to Atlanta and win, 2-6. At Cincinnati, they lose. That's 2-7. They beat Atlanta, 3-7. And then I think that's 3-7. So 1, 2 straight. So 3-9 as they lose to Baltimore and Denver. I'll give them a win at Seattle, 4-9. And then I think they close losing 3 of their next 4. So that's a 5-12 record. That's where I got Carolina. They're 5-12. They're not a good football team. I don't think the addition, we know about quarterbacks, just if the roster doesn't change, but you add Jimmy Garoppolo, right? The starter in the NFL, can win you games, isn't going to elevate you to like a championship level team. It's more of like you need a team to elevate him, like in San Francisco. But add Jimmy Garoppolo, that's a couple extra wins. Like we know Jimmy Garoppolo is better than Sam Darnold, but I don't think it's going to matter, Darnold or Baker. I don't think it's going to matter. I could see this very well blowing up badly, and Matt Rule gets fired in week 11. I mean, it's just not going to work. All right, moving on. NBA Summer League, which I watched a little bit of it. Unfortunately, my Golden State Warriors we can't win everything. We won the NBA championship. You just can't win everything, right? I don't think the Warriors have won a Summer League game yet, but it's not keeping me up at night. But there are some Summer League games that do matter to a lot of fan bases of some of these, lottery teams, certainly the Oklahoma City Thunder included. And Chet Holmgren was the second overall pick in the draft out of Gonzaga. Everybody knows, athletic big guy. The number one thing that everybody talks about sticks out is he is probably the thinnest lottery pick to come into the NBA since Kevin Durant in 2007 out of Texas. And I think he's probably thinner than even KD. I don't know what KD weighed coming out of Texas, but as far as stature, as skinny as KD was, he looked bigger than this kid. I mean, he's like 7'1", 7'2", 170. I mean, he's literally, he looks like a stick. His first Summer League game, though, played outstanding against, I believe it was against the Utah Jazz. Chet Holmgren dropped 23 points. Also grabbed 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and a Summer League record 6 blocks. And I believe he also broke the record for threes made in a Summer League game with 4. So we know about the talent with Chet Holmgren. Tall, big guy. You saw the comparisons after the first Summer League game to Dirk Nowitzki, to a young Dirk Nowitzki early in his career with the Dallas Mavericks, right? Now, Dirk, obviously, was a lot bigger than Chet Holmgren. And, Dirk wasn't even necessarily like a huge guy, but he's bigger than this kid. But, sort of we know about Dirk's, fading away shot with the leg sticking out. There's actually a logo of him doing that on the Dallas Mavericks court. You saw the comparisons with that and Chet Holmgren. Now, I do not think Chet Holmgren is going to be Dirk Nowitzki. I don't. I mean, Dirk Nowitzki is one of the, in my view, one of the 10 greatest scorers of all time. Like, I don't think he gets enough credit for how efficient he could score the basketball just about any way you slice it. But Chet Holmgren played his second Summer League game. It did not go quite as successfully, although he did have a double-double. He had 11 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 blocks, as opposed to having 6 in the other one. And he only shot 3 for 11 from the floor and 1 for 6 from three-point range. And defensively, from the first possession of the game, they went right at him. Why? Because he's 170 pounds at 7 feet 1 inches tall. 7 feet and an inch tall. The one kid, I forgot his name, was just backing him down. And just, going up and, for these layups and flexing and all that. So that's, and the thing we know about guys coming in the NBA, Lonzo Ball is the first example. Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram was the first example I could think of this. Right? Brandon Ingram came to the NBA. He was compared to KD, not just because he could score similar to how KD could score coming out of college, but because he was extremely, he was thinly built. But the man weight, we know the grown man weight. We're talking about 19-year-old kids here. He gets to 21, 22, 23. The man weight comes on, right? He builds some muscle, have some training programs in the offseason. So we know how that goes. Chet's going to add more weight to his body. But the thing that I worry about with him is it ever going to fill out with him in that he's able to feel comfortable in his body to where guys aren't just going to attack him every single time? Because Chet Holmgren, here's one thing about him that's, was one of the reasons he was a top 3 pick and the number 2 pick in this case. Pretty good perimeter defender for his size. And so he can go out. He's not Rudy Gobert. He's not a statue who all he does is block shots and does absolutely nothing else. He can guard the perimeter. The issue, and obviously we know he can score the basketball efficiently. The thing with him, though, is he going to be so much a defensive liability, have to put so much effort into that end of the floor that it hurts his offensive game? That's why guys like Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Klay Thompson, Giannis Antetokounmpo get the praise that they do because they put so much energy into the defensive end of the floor, getting stops, and they still can give you 20 to 30 points. That's why Michael Jordan was the king of this, right? Akeem Olajuwon. Even in some cases, LeBron, Kobe, guys who could get you 30 and lock up your best player. Now, the guys I described, aside from Akeem, are guards. But again, we're talking about somebody who can guard the perimeter. He's not just a shot blocker, even though he did block 6 shots. That's the only concern I have about it. And that's why me personally, as much as I like Paolo Banchero, I would have taken Jabari Smith out of Auburn number 1 overall in the draft if I were the Orlando Magic. He's just a couple inches shorter than Chet Holmgren. I don't think he's the ball handler Chet is, but can stroke it from deep just like Chet can, is a better overall scorer than Chet is. And in terms of his physique, in terms of his body, is NBA ready. Especially playing the sport of basketball, I'd almost prefer guys not to be jacked. Like, people don't realize about Giannis, and I'm not saying like he hasn't improved as a player, so don't take what I'm saying wrong. But Giannis was a better shooter when he came out or from Greece into the NBA when he was 19 years old. If you look at Giannis' shot, his jump shot looked a lot like Kevin Durant. But when listen, people who play basketball, they know. Trust me, I've had some rough shooting days because of this. When you work out, when you build muscles, your biceps, your shoulders, it hurts your shooting a little bit. And so you have to sort of simultaneously work on your shooting as your body changes, as you're able to add more muscle to your arms. Right? So I don't need guys to come in jacked like Giannis or something, or built like LeBron. That's what made LeBron so freakish, just because he's 18 years old, comes in the NBA with like a 35-year-old NBA body. Like, that just doesn't happen. I'm not saying Chet has to be that, but could his frame be so bad of a liability defensively that it hurts him in the offensive end? Because I think it was on whenever it was last night, Tuesday night, whenever it was the Thunder's second game, because we saw the shooting percentage again. Was he 3 for 11? Yeah, 3 for 11 for the field, 1 of 6 from 3. What do we know about shooters? And a lot of some of those shots were short. A lot of times, shots, if you take a jump shot and it's short, fatigue. I've seen, trust me, as somebody who is a fan of the team that drafted the greatest shooter who ever lived, Steph Curry. In games where Steph is starting to feel some fatigue and he's firing up threes, they usually come up short. Fatigue. So that's what I worry about with this kid. That's the only thing I worry about with him. And I think Jabari Smith is going to pan out better when it's all said and done. Let's see. John Rivera's in the comments. He said he's going to be an okay player, 13-5 player. Yeah, I mean, but look, that's at the end of the day, that's fine, but that's not what the Thunder drafted him to be. If you take somebody with the second overall pick, we're talking about if you're not a franchise-changing guy, we need you to be a big part of the foundation of our rise back to being a great team. Never forget Sam Presti, the president of basketball operations in Oklahoma City, same guy who in 3 straight years, and this doesn't even sound possible, in 3 straight years, 2007 to 2009, he drafted Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. 3 straight drafts. That's I don't even know if anybody else can compare to that. I know the Lakers drafted Magic Johnson and then a few years later took James Worthy, but like that doesn't happen ever. So that's what's been going on with the Thunder. They're trying to build that again, and if they are able to do that, I'm not sure Chet Holmgren is necessarily going to be at the forefront of that. Grady says, do you think there's a chance Kevin Durant will get traded back to OKC? That'd be interesting. If he has any balls and wants to fix his reputation basketball-wise, he should force his way there because that's where it all went wrong. KD has been whacked since. I would assume you're not talking about whack as far as his production on the basketball court. I mean, to me, his most efficient years were in Golden State. Do I think there's a chance he gets traded back to OKC? Well, that'd be interesting. And the Nets, KD does not have a no-trade clause, so the Nets can technically trade him wherever they want. The question for Brooklyn is, are they working with KD on a trade? I can't imagine they are, for the simple fact that it's been a tumultuous 3 years since KD joined Brooklyn. It isn't a situation like where he's like a Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford put 10 years into the Detroit Lions, and after 10 years, he's like, man, he put 12 years in the Detroit Lions. Lost so many games, and eventually he's like, man, I just want to play for a winner. And the Lions were like, you know what? You put 12 years in. You've been great in the community. Wherever you want to get traded, let us know, and we'll try and make something happen. I don't think it's a similar relationship with KD and Brooklyn. First of all, it's only been 3 years. Second of all, it's not like there's been a ton of success. They won 1 playoff series. 1. So, do I think there's a chance? Sure, I think there's a chance. If Brooklyn wants to go into a full rebuild, Oklahoma City, as John Rivera goes right into my next point in the comments. He says they have the picks, talking about the Thunder. OKC got the picks to give Brooklyn, and they've got the young players. As far as talent in OKC, obviously Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is super talented, and I really like Josh Giddey. I watched a little bit of Thunder basketball last year. That Josh Giddey kid can play, man. He feels like every other night he's on triple-double alert. Like, kid can play. There's no question. Grady's talking about personality-wise. When he was talking about KD's been whacked since, he's saying personality-wise. Yeah, and I think KD's not the type of guy who was ready for the criticism that he got when he joined Golden State. And it seems like I remember Draymond Green talking about, he was on JJ Redick's podcast, not the one that they just did. They did one earlier this year in January on The Old Man of the Three. Great podcast. But Draymond was talking about, I forgot if it was just Draymond or another member of the Warriors that were saying when they had those meetings with Kevin Durant at the Hamptons in 2016 during free agency, KD's deciding where he wants to go. Somebody, I forgot who it was in the Warriors, told him, like, bro, you're going to get a lot of pushback if you join us. We want you to join us, but just know it's going to be a lot. And was that and then some. People are like, man, how could you join a 73-win team, almost won a second straight championship with the two-time MVP when you just lost to them? And not only did you just lose to them, but you blew a 3-1 lead to them. And so that was the criticism of Kevin Durant. And it feels like it's persisted even to this day. And especially now that Steph won a second title without KD, post KD, oh man. Listen, like I said, if you thought the criticism was bad when KD joined Golden State the first time, he gets traded to the Warriors. Oh my gosh, he'll never hear the end of it. He'll never hear the end of it. Now, as long as we don't have to give up all of our young players, he can come to Golden State, okay? He can come to Golden State. Just go and get that Larry O'Brien trophy ready. Go and get the rings ready and all that. John John said, I think it's going to be a mystery team, Denver. Grady suggested that. John John now suggests that. I've heard people discuss that because, look, Denver does have the young players. Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. is a big risk, especially considering the contract and the injuries. He's had back problems ever since college. I really like that Bones Highland kid that Denver has. I like that kid. I like his edge. I like the way he plays. Good three-point shooter. Maybe you can include him in a package. Again, the bottom line for Brooklyn is, and I talked about this last week when KD requested a trade. It's actually a week ago today. What is Brooklyn hoping to accomplish through this trade? Are they trying to go into a full rebuild? If so, Denver could be a solid, team to make a deal with. Oklahoma City would be a great team to make a deal with. Or do they still want to be competitive, a playoff level team? If so, Boston. I suggested Boston last Friday. I said I think that they have the best package to give up guys for KD. Talking about Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart. Let me see. Let me pull up the trade idea I had. Hold on. There it is. Yeah, I'll pull it up again. Yeah, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Al Horford, and 2 first-round picks. You get the picks. You get an all-star level player. You get the defensive player of the year. You get an excellent veteran center, tremendous leadership by Al Horford, and you get 2 first-round picks. Now, the thing is, they're going to be late first-round picks because it's from the Boston Celtics, so that might either Brooklyn would ask for more picks or they just wouldn't do a deal with the Celtics. So, that's entirely possible as well. But we'll see. Let's see. Yes. Grady says, have you seen Aaron Rodgers' tattoo? Guy looks like he might be doing some witchcraft to get to that second Super Bowl or something. Had that cleansing after the season or something. Yeah, he did do the cleansing, which I think according to NBC Sports was like some sort of like vomiting thing. I don't know. Man, Grady, I'll just say this. Aaron Rodgers is going into Kyrie Irving territory, Kanye West territory, in terms of just, of course, Kanye isn't as, I don't think Kanye is as weird as Kyrie Irving is. Kyrie's just, he's out there, man. Aaron Rodgers getting into that territory though now. Yes, I have seen the tattoo. I'm the wrong guy to ask to tell you what it means. Listen, I don't know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers half the time. Who knows? Maybe he is trying to do some witchcraft to get a second Super Bowl. Who knows? But Aaron is something else, man. He's something else. John says reports say they want to compete because they don't want any more picks. That's so Boston to me would be the best option then in that case. All-star level player Jaylen Brown. You have, which you guys know, I'm not a Ben Simmons fan of the slightest. Grady once said, he once texted me last year. He said, Ben Simmons is the Jay Cutler of the NFL. And I'm like, that's a perfect example. Stupid talented guy who could care less about the sport he plays. And it shows in the way he plays, body language, his facial expressions, his work ethic. So that's the deal with Ben Simmons and Jay Cutler. I think it's a good comparison though. But I think, yeah, I'm telling you, I think Boston has the best package to go get KD. I do. For Brooklyn too, if the reports are true, John, and they do want to compete, you get 2 starter level players. You could even argue Al Horford's still a starter at this point in his career. He did start for the Boston Celtics. Giving the Nets some size. They've got Nick Claxton back. They brought back Patty Mills. Seth Curry is still there. That sounds like a playoff level team. That is a team that could get in the play-in tournament, maybe get in. They'd have to probably beat like a like an Atlanta or some other Chicago level team, like to get in the playoffs, or a Charlotte. But yeah, that works. You know, Boston is the favorite out east if they make that deal. I think even over Milwaukee, who I think is going to have a phenomenal season this year, kind of like a revenge tour after falling short in the second round because of injury. And then as for the Brooklyn Nets, hey, they still compete. Now, the issue with Brooklyn now is Steve Nash. Is he as clueless as we think he is, or is it the guy just doesn't run sets? You watch the Brooklyn Nets offense, they don't run anything. It's just Kevin, Kyrie, they're your thing. That's why when they were both out, Brooklyn went on like a 9-game losing streak or something. It was bad. It was really bad. So that's Brooklyn. And they're in a phew, they should not have fired Kenny Atkinson. Grady says, I'd love if he got traded back to OKC, or he's forced to play with Westbrook in Brooklyn. I just want to see his body language on the court. It'd be interesting to watch how KD would react. It would. A KD and Russell Westbrook reunion would be the ultimate turn of events, no question about it. The only way that to happen is if there were a Westbrook for Kyrie trade, which why Brooklyn would do that? Surely you can get something better for Kyrie than Russell Westbrook. Surely you can get something better than Russell Westbrook. But hey, we'll see. All right, moving on. We're actually going to stick with basketball. Moving on to the WNBA for a second, because I want to talk about a player who I've been a fan of for 2.5 years, Sabrina Ionescu. Been watching her since college at Oregon. She trained with the late, great, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. She has trained with Steph Curry. I said on this show, I think in February, of 2020, this is like right before COVID shook the world, that Sabrina Ionescu, when it's all said and done, is going to be the greatest female basketball player of all time. I truly believe that. Last night, she made WNBA history. She became, let me find it. Yeah. She became the first player in WNBA history to have a 30-point triple-double. Not only did she do that, but she has tied the great, shout out Tennessee Lady Vols, Candace Parker, repping the Vols right behind me. Let's go Vols. Candace Parker. She tied Candace Parker for the most triple-doubles in WNBA history. And it's not, you're going to say, well, I thought you didn't care about triple-doubles. You don't like Westbrook. All right. Well, she didn't have a Westbrook triple-double, okay? She shot 10 of 13 from the field and 7 for 8 from 3. As a guard, she had a teammate last night for the New York Liberty who went like 11 for 12 off the bench, but she's a center. Sabrina Ionescu's a guard, okay? She is going to be an all-time great. She is, in my view, and we're talking Lisa Leslie. I thought Maya Moore, up until she, stepped away from the WNBA. By the way, shout out to Maya Moore and the things that she has done since she stepped away from basketball. Just phenomenal. And she's going to become a mother soon. So shout out to Maya Moore and her husband, her entire family. But Maya Moore, I thought, was on her way to being the GOAT. If we're talking Lisa Leslie, we're talking Taurasi, Sue Bird, that is. Sabrina's going to pass them all. I truly believe. When you're talking about the fact that she's improved her shooting, she's always been automatic from the line. She's a 90% free throw shooter. Okay, so she cashes in at the stripe. But we're seeing on House of Highlights. We're seeing on Bleacher Report, on social media. Y'all know what I'm talking about. These Curry threes from feels like 30, 35 feet out, and it's nothing but net. She can get her own shot off the dribble. She's it. Now, I like the Paige Beckers kid, the guard out of UConn. I think she's going to be excellent in the WNBA. Sabrina Ionescu's it. I believe she was the first player in the history of college basketball. Wilt may have done it. Wilt Chamberlain at Kansas may have done it, but I think she was the only one to do it, to have 10,000 points, 10,000 rebounds, 10,000 assists. It was something like ridiculous, or 5,000. I think it was 5,000. She's it. She's it. When you're talking about somebody who's trained with Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, two, to me, of the 7 greatest basketball players who ever did it, you're talking about somebody who's great off the dribble, solid. She can improve defensively, but solid defensively. Phenomenal three-point shooter, which she's improved drastically in that area. Can get teammates involved. She's second in the WNBA in assists. She's just outside the top 5 in scoring, and she's in her 3rd season. Just want to give Sabrina Ionescu a shout out. She's coming. She's coming. She is as good as it gets. And you could see you can see the similarities in some ways to Sue Bird. And we know Sue Bird, if you watch the WBA, is like a typical prototypical point guard. And by the way, shout out to Sue Bird as well. This is her final season, which is, what is this, year 21 for her? She's had like Tom Brady longevity. But she can shoot better than Sue could. She is, I think, a better rebounder than Sue was. You got to keep in mind, Sue Bird, not to take any credit away from her, played at a college basketball powerhouse at UConn under the great Gino Auriemma. Sabrina Ionescu played at a great program, Oregon, but it's not UConn. It's not South Carolina. It's not Tennessee. This isn't an all-time great college basketball. Stanford, an all-time great program. Grady in the comments says, if any WNBA player could have hung in the NBA and been a role player, who is it? Diana Taurasi. Kobe Bryant said that not long before he passed. He said Diana Taurasi could have been in the NBA. And that's probably who I'd pick. You could maybe Candace Parker, but I think we what do we know about the NBA? It is a shooters league. Diana Taurasi is the all-time leading scorer in league history, in WNBA history. She's a bucket getter. So I think if nothing else, she could be a spot-up shooter. If nothing else. I think if you're talking about somebody now, not now, I don't think she could play in the NBA right now at this advanced stage in her career, but in her prime, yeah, Taurasi. They called it, what Kobe called her, the White Mamba. Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. Man, you want to talk about a stone cold killer, and she lets you know about it too, just like Kobe. She lets you know about it too. I think she's won 3 WNBA championships. I think she could have played in the NBA. But Sabrina Ionescu, I promise you, 10 years from now, y'all going to look back and say, hey, Bryson called it when she was in college. Greatest female basketball player of all time. Watch. By the way, big shout out as well. Of course, I'd be remiss if I did not say prayers out that we're able to bring Brittany Griner home. Just wanted to say that. Grady actually asked about Brittany Griner. Where does Brittany Griner rank among the WNBA all-timers? She's obviously a great rim protector. Could score down low. All-timers. I'd probably put her in the top 25. I mean, again, she's still, if she's, the most important thing for her is that she's able to come home. But if she is, Lord willing, able to, and comes back and plays basketball, I think she's won an MVP, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I think she's an MVP. Obviously uses her size to her advantage, is a good score down low. Yeah, I think she's probably a top 25 player in league history with the Phoenix Mercury. Obviously teammates with Diana Taurasi. I think Skylar Diggins-Smith, apparently there's been some issues with her in the organization. The Sun, not the Sun, the Mercury, the Phoenix Mercury. I'm thinking about the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Mercury have had some team issues this year. They've gotten off to a rough start, in part because Brittany Griner is not there. And so I think that's led to the frustrations with Skylar Diggins-Smith. Excellent guard. She probably ends up getting traded, but we'll see where that ends up. But I don't want Diana Taurasi. I don't think this is her last year. I think maybe she retires next year after her former college teammate Sue Bird. But I don't want her to retire on like a bad team. I know she's the White Mamba. She's similar to Kobe. But I don't want it to be similar to Kobe in that she retires off a god-awful basketball team. Like, I don't want to see that. Nobody wants to see that. With any great player, to retire, from a crappy team. I mean, Kobe Bryant's Lakers that year won like 15 games. They were abysmal. I'm just glad we got the 60-point performance from Kobe, without a doubt. Let's see. Hold on. Got one more comment before we move on to Trey Lance. And Grace says, yeah, I agree with the Brittany Griner sentiment. Absolutely. We got to bring her home. Moving out to Trey Lance in the NFL. I've had like a love-hate relationship with Trey Lance. I loved the kid coming out of North Dakota State. And when he was drafted, I remember, you can go back and watch the shows leading up to the 2021 NFL draft, when all the reports said they're going to take Mac Jones 3rd overall. And I'm like, oh, No, there's no way. There's no way an organization as smart as the San Francisco 49ers. Excellent ownership, Jed York. Excellent general manager, John Lynch, I would almost make the case John Lynch is as good as a GM as he was a player. And that's saying something because he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Deservedly so, by the way. Finally got in last year. And Kyle Shanahan, who's one of the more brilliant offensive coaches in the league. I put him in the top 3. I know he's blown a lot of leads. I get it. Super Bowls against the Falcons and against the Chiefs a couple years ago. He's a brilliant offensive coach, especially in the West Coast system with the running game. Man, I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. If they're going to take a quarterback, there's no way they're taking Mac Jones over Trey Lance. And they didn't. They took Trey Lance 3rd overall. And I was thrilled about it. I'm like, this kid, he needs time. He's not ready for the NFL right now. He needs reps. And obviously I think he played in 3 games last year when Jimmy Garoppolo was out with injury. Was good. He had one rough game against the Arizona Cardinals, but for the most part, he played fairly well. But there were some kind of concerning reports coming out of coming out of San Francisco this offseason saying like, hey, the release isn't great. We have some concerns with Trey Lance. And I'm like, oh, gosh, I may have to walk back what I said about this guy. Because I said coming out of that 2021 draft, I said, I'm not sure if he'll be the best quarterback. I think Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback out of that draft. But I think he has the best career. Given the organization, Trevor Lawrence is going to Jacksonville. Come on now. It's not fair to send a quarterback to Jacksonville. Zach Wilson, and I wasn't a big Zach Wilson fan to begin with. But to the Jets, it's quarterback. It's the place where young quarterbacks' dreams go to die. That's what it is. The New York Jets. Justin Fields loved that kick out of Ohio State. Went to the Bears. Trey Lance went to the best situation, the San Francisco 49ers. And you're hearing concerns about his release isn't perfect. His accuracy wasn't great. Here's the thing. Right now, it looks like Trey Lance is going to be the starter at quarterback. And as a matter of fact, the reason I wanted to talk about him today is because Peter Schrager, who's a very plugged-in source, you guys may have seen him. He's one of the main anchors on the show Good Morning Football on the NFL Network. And again, very plugged-in reporter. And he said, quote, he was on the Pat McAfee show. We get a lot of bites from the Pat McAfee show, specifically from Aaron Rodgers. But he said, quote, from what I've been told, Trey Lance has grown leaps and bounds the past few months as far as playbook and voice in the locker room. Okay, so he's getting the playbook better. That's big. And maybe that's part of the reason he's had some struggles on the field and leadership. Now, that's saying a lot in San Francisco because what we know about the 49ers is all the criticism that Jimmy Garoppolo has had, and I jumped off the Jimmy Garoppolo bandwagon a couple of years ago when he played poorly against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. But what we know about Jimmy Garoppolo is he's better than Baker Mayfield. He's a starter, but I don't look at him as a franchise guy. That locker room loves Jimmy G. Loves him. If Jimmy G went out there and threw 3 interceptions, was inaccurate and played bad, those 49ers players would go to their press conferences with the media and just defend. And it's not like half-hearted, like, oh, I have to defend him. He's the quarterback. If I don't, I'll get cut or there'll be issues with the team. No, they love Jimmy G. George Kittle could not speak higher of Jimmy G. Trey Lance walks in. All of a sudden, they like him. Not that they've forgotten about or don't like Jimmy G, who, by the way, is still a 49er. He's still with the team. He's recovering from shoulder surgery. But they're bought into this kid. And if the players are bought in, if he's learned the playbook better, I'm not selling my Trey Lance stock. I'm staying on it. He's going to have the best career of the 2021 quarterbacks, and I will not jump off that position until proven otherwise. Now, we'll have to see over the course of the next decade how that plays out. Heck, we may even know within 5 years. If you look at the 2018 draft, which was one of the more loaded in terms of quarterbacks, Baker's a bust, Darnold's a bust, Rosen is bust on steroids. And then you've had 2 superstar quarterbacks. One I'm going to talk about in the next segment, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen's going to win a couple of Super Bowls, and I think he's going to have the better career than Lamar. But Lamar's won an MVP. So we may know sort of by, 2024, 25, who's the best of these quarterbacks that we have to this point out of the 2021 draft. But Peter Schrager went on to say, quote, the Jimmy Garoppolo thing is fascinating because back in February at the Combine, I was talking to everyone there, and they were like, he'll get traded. And the surgery completely threw a corkscrew in this whole thing. No one wanted to trade for a quarterback coming off of surgery without having their eyes on him. And the Niners don't want to trade him for 20 cents on the dollar, which is essentially what they'd have to do. Now we're at the point where Jimmy needs to start throwing. He has not been with the team. For the most part, when he's been training, he's been in Southern California. Trey Lance has been with the team. Trey Lance has been leading practices. Trey Lance has been leading guys. Trey Lance has been throwing with wide receivers. I don't think the train has left the station in terms of who you're going to battle with week one. Trey Lance grew leaps and bounds the last few months from what I've been told as far as the playbook, but also as the voice of the locker room. Jimmy being gone, Trey has really taken that and been like, I'm the dude, follow me. And a lot of the guys are starting to follow. And okay, this is going to be our future leader. Great. I love to hear that. That's the guy. That's the guy that I was talking about coming out of college. His issue wasn't like, it wasn't a talent thing with him. It wasn't a leadership thing. I worried about Zach Wilson in terms of leadership. He seems a little Baker-ish in terms of maturity. It wasn't a talent thing. That was my issue with Mac Jones. Like, he's nice. Like, he's pretty accurate. Arm isn't great. It's not terrible. Leadership seems good. Like the kid. Seems, he's improved physically in the offseason. But A, he has literally nobody to throw to in New England. B, he has a coach who doesn't know what he's doing in the draft. And C, he's got a ceiling. It's a hard ceiling. And it's not that of Trey Lance. Trey Lance, as the great Michael Jordan said, and John often quotes him on the show, the ceiling is the roof. Trey Lance can go as far as he wants. His issue is he needed reps. Maybe that was the issue with the accuracy at practice. Now, I haven't heard any updates as far as release, but what I would say is, who else had a really awkward release? Phillip Rivers. Today, some people argue that Phillip Rivers is a Hall of Famer. Your release may be weird, but can you throw accurately, consistently? There's been plenty of guys who have had an awkward release, who have been accurate and who have not been accurate. Tim Tebow had the worst throwing motion of any quarterback I think I've ever seen. And he completed 47% of his passes. He was terrible. Could not throw. Tim Tebow's the definition of could not throw. Drew Brees had a funky throwing motion. Yeah, he's also the NFL all-time leader in completion percentage. So he's accurate. That's what it comes down to. Are you accurate? And if Trey Lance improves that, which we know you can do, I've seen firsthand my favorite, not the best, but my favorite quarterback in the NFL, Dak Prescott, has improved leaps and bounds in terms of his accuracy from year one, especially year two, to now year 7. That can improve, especially if you're as young as Trey Lance is. Remember, the kid's like 22 years old. He's still very young. Coming up in a perfect offensive system with, think about the weapons this guy has. This is one of the reasons I said he'd have the best career. First of all, he's got Kyle Shanahan coaching him. Kyle Shanahan, the same guy who helped Jimmy Garoppolo play in a Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan, the same guy who, I like Matt Ryan, but who was the offensive coordinator when Matt Ryan won MVP? Kyle Shanahan. Matt Ryan, we never thought of as an MVP level quarterback until he had Kyle Shanahan. You got John Lynch, the GM, who's putting the talent around Trey Lance. George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, shout out Tennessee. Loaded offensive line led by Trent Williams. Stacked defensive line led by Nick Bosa. The stacked linebacking core led by Fred Warner. Is it a tough division? Yes, but Seattle's going to be garbage. Okay, the Rams, we know what they are. They're the champs. They're going to be great next year. The Cardinals have had a little bit of turmoil with the Kyler Murray situation. And I think Cliff Kingsbury is a limited coach. He's not on the same level, even close, as a Sean McVay or as a Kyle Shanahan. So Trey Lance is walking to a team that's the second best team in its division, in a division that's probably the second best in football, to the AFC West. I think he's going to work. I do. I'm back on the gym. I'm back on the Trey Lance bandwagon, and I'm not jumping off. I'm not jumping off. There, I said it. Feels good to get off my chest. Yeah, Grady's going back to the Brittany Griner situation. He said, sentiments, by the way, our government has done an awful job with this situation. And we agree there. No question. Grady says, I kind of think Jimmy G will get traded during the preseason or early on in the season. There's going to be a team that gets desperate and trades for him. Yeah, a Seattle possibly. And that'd be weird being interdivision trade. We know the bitter rivalry that the Niners and the Seahawks have, but I mean, who would you take, Jimmy Garoppolo or Drew Lock? Now, I liked Drew Lock coming out of Missouri. He has not panned out. Okay, if Drew Lock is who you're starting at quarterback with a roster that made Russell Wilson look bad, you are screwed, especially in that division. So at least have Jimmy Garoppolo to just weather the storm and get you through. How about this too? I thought about this. What if Jimmy gets traded to Tampa Bay to back up Brady? Might piss Brady off because he's like, man, I'm trying to get away from this guy. I'm sick of Jimmy G. But Garoppolo isn't exactly the worst succession plan in the world for when Tom Brady retires, which I think will be after this season. I said that, a few weeks ago. I think Tom Brady's going to retire after this season. Now that he's gotten to age 45, he said that was his goal. I think he's going to try and, play the season, play well, try and go win a Super Bowl. Whatever the outcome is, he's done. Well, Jimmy Garoppolo's not a terrible succession plan. He's a heck of a lot better than Blaine Gabbert or who's the other kid they got? Kyle Trask, the kid out of Florida. I'll take Jimmy Garoppolo over either of those guys. Grady says, I don't think Baker is a bust. He's had his moments. Guy is still a relatively young player. Hate on me for saying this, but I might say he's had a similar-ish resume to Drew Brees with the Chargers. I can't agree with you, bro. I can't. I love you, Grady. I can't go there. Brees did have a resume with the Chargers. We know that guy almost had a career-ending shoulder injury. Again, the Dolphins didn't want him, and that's the reason that Nick Saban's at Alabama. Because Nick Saban's like, okay, you know what, Drew Brees, I'm leaving the Dolphins. And the rest, as they say, is history. Nick Saban's the greatest college football coach of all time. But that's beside the point. The issue for me with Baker, Grady, is we know about the leadership issues, and he has had his moments. But he's had his moments in a system. He played well in 2018. I'll give him that. 2018, to me, in terms of the structure or lack thereof around him, to me, that was his most impressive season. Not even more impressive than 2020 because of what he was doing in 2020. He had a run-first coach in Kevin Stefanski. He had 2 of the 10 best running backs in football. I think it's fair to say Kareem Hunt's a top 10 back. Led the league in rushing his rookie year in Kansas City. Phenomenal offensive line that, to the Browns front office's credit, they improved drastically in the last few drafts and in free agency. I mean, you got Odell Beckham Jr. If you can't make it work with OBJ, Eli Manning at the end of his career, when he was way out of his prime, made it work with Odell. And Baker couldn't? Odell's dad put out the tape. Odell was open, and Baker wasn't throwing the ball. And some of that's just a chemistry issue. Some of that's just a chemistry thing. 2 guys just don't work together. But then Odell goes to the Rams as the number 2 and flourishes with Matthew Stafford. And so I think the thing for me with Baker is I have not seen him succeed, and I mean win consistently, when the situation is not perfect. We're going to find out this year. That's why I think it's going to be a disaster in Carolina. Baker's best season in terms of the team winning games was when he was like the 3rd or 4th most important player, if we're being completely honest. I'd argue Kevin Stefanski was more important than him at that point. But we'll see. John's got an interesting question. If Baker wins more games than Dak, you've got to wear a Baker jersey. Bet. I'll wear a Baker jersey on the show if Baker Mayfield wins more games than Dak Prescott this year. Bet. I'm not. I ain't worried about that. Baker ain't winning no more games than Dak Prescott. Come on. He's not. No. He's not winning more games than Dak. He ain't winning more games than Dak. Grady said he did nothing to help his reputation last year. Don't get me wrong, but I do think injuries played a huge part in it. I think his ceiling is to be a poor man's Dak, top 10-ish. And he also says, guy is a top 12, 15 quarterback right now and healthy. I don't know about that. The thing I said about the injuries, do I think the shoulder injury hampered him? Yes, I do. He would have played better last season if it weren't for the shoulder injury. I don't think, however, he would have played so much better that the Browns would have made the playoffs. Because a lot of those games, again, I always point back to the Green Bay game on Christmas Day at Lambeau, or even the Sunday night football game they played against the Baltimore Ravens. The decision-making on some of those throws was really bad. And can you clean that up? I think you can. There's some guys who haven't, Sam Darnold, Carson Wentz. But I don't know. I haven't seen it to this point the first 4 years with Baker. And if we're talking about it, the reason I say he's a bust, Grady, is because number one pick in the draft. Number one pick in the draft is a dude who is supposed to not just be great, change a franchise. Peyton Manning, Troy Aikman, guys like that. That's what the number one pick is supposed to. Joe Burrow is supposed to represent. Baker, if you redid the 2018 draft, because the quarterback position is so important, he would probably be, in my view, I'd have to look back at the 2018 draft because it was good. He probably, just off the top of my head, I'd have to look back at it, but off the top of my head, he'd be a mid-first round pick. But top 12, 15 quarterback. I mean, let's think. Excuse me. So let's go NFC. Let's just say Baker's healthy. So if we say Baker's healthy, again, we're doing like a whole like impromptu segment here, but I think this is a good discussion. Baker healthy, 2020. Browns make the playoffs. So let's use that as the basis. So NFC. So I'll go division by division. Dak's unquestionably be better. Jalen Hurts, it's a toss-up. If we're talking Baker at his best and Jalen at his best, I'll probably roll with Baker because I have questions about Hurts's accuracy. Jalen Hurts, the issue is the decision-making. That game against Tampa, the 2 games against the Cowboys. I mean, the guy struggles with his deep ball. He's not got a great arm, but we could talk about Jalen Hurts later. I'll take a healthy Baker, a good Baker over Baker Mayfield. Let's see. So I'm thinking NFC East. Definitely take him over Daniel Jones. Carson Wentz, man, that's a toss-up. That's a toss-up. Because I haven't seen Wentz win consistently when the situation's perfect. I will take Baker simply because Wentz is not available enough. So, okay, we got one quarterback thus far that is unquestionably better than Baker when he's at his best, which is Dak. Aaron Rodgers unquestionably better. I would take Kirk Cousins over Baker Mayfield. You can say what you want about Jared Goff. The situation was perfect in LA. He did get to a Super Bowl. He was limited. He's not Matthew Stafford. We know that. I'd take Jared Goff over Baker Mayfield. Let's think about who's the last team. Justin Fields. Because Justin Fields in Chicago, I'll take Baker. So that's 4. NFC West. I'll take Stafford over him. I will take Kyler Murray definitely over him. I would take Trey Lance. I'm telling you, I'm on this Trey Lance bandwagon now. I jumped up from the beginning. I'll take Trey Lance over him. So that's already 7. And I definitely take Baker over Drew Lock. No question. Who's the last division? Okay. Obviously Brady. You definitely take Tom Brady over Baker. And he's the second best quarterback in that division right now. Honestly, I might consider Jameis. But I'll just for the sake of argument, I'll take Baker. So go in the AFC. Mahomes, Burrow, Russell, Herbert, Carr. Who am I missing? Mahomes, Wilson, Herbert, Carr. I'm missing somebody. No, I got them all. Okay. I'd take Lamar over him. I'm going to talk about Lamar in the next segment. I'd take him over Kenny Pickett because I haven't seen Kenny Pickett play yet. And Deshaun Watson, let's put him aside because we don't even know if the man's playing. I'll take Baker over Jacoby Brissett. That's 14 thus far. Let's see, AFC East. I would definitely take Josh Allen. No question. Taking Josh Allen over Baker Mayfield. I'd definitely take Baker over Mac Jones. I'd take him over Zach Wilson and over Tua. I think that's all the divisions. Did I get the NFC North, NFC West, NFC? So, yeah, I think I got them all. Let's see, East, West, South. I didn't get the South. I'd take Ryan Tannehill over him, and I'd take Matt Ryan over him. I'd take 17 quarterbacks. When Baker's at his best, over Baker Mayfield. I'd take 17. Like I said, Baker's a starter. I'd take Baker's a starter, but I can't go even at his peak. I can't go top 12, 15 quarterback. Just my personal opinion. John says you never know, or top picks never pan out. I would say never. I mean, there's a greater, yes, John, there's definitely a greater likelihood that they won't pan out because you are drafting them so high. And what do you get out of that value? I mean, the greatest value pick of all time is obviously Tom Brady at pick 199. John says exactly, he'd be a top quarterback in the West. And John says he says Cap, no Goff over Baker. Shaking my head. I mean, you could probably convince me into Baker over Goff. The argument I make is that Baker had an offensive coach who played right into Baker's strengths. He had the running game, offensive line, defense, even in a tough division, and he's won one playoff game. Goff's won 2 playoff games and got to a Super Bowl when his situation was perfect. Now, he's in Detroit. I think we're going to see a lot of what we saw from Goff in Detroit. I think you're going to see from Baker in Carolina. They're a 5-win team. They're a 5-12 football team, in my view. I don't think this is going to work. I really don't. But yeah, you could probably tell me out of Goff, but I'd still take 16, 17 quarterbacks when Baker is at his peak over Baker Mayfield. And I didn't even include like Jimmy Garoppolo. I'd take Jimmy over Baker. Yeah, there's a lot going on in the NFL right now. Let's see. This is about Trent Williams. I think we got some. Wow. Nice. Trent Williams got a 99 overall in Madden. Well-deserved. Best left tackle in football. Love it. All right. Well, let's see. We got a few comments here before I get to my last segment. Grady, I love how you left out the Falcons. Talk about a bye week for every team to see. The Falcons are going to be awful, Grady. They're going to be awful. They are going to be just trash. Nothing against Marcus Mariota. Good dude. Did not pan out. Now, Marcus Mariota is definitely a bust. He was the 2nd overall pick in 2015. Definitely did not pan out to what the Titans thought he'd be. Backed up Derek Carr in Vegas. Now he's the starter in Atlanta after they traded Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan got traded. I mean, the best player, I guess the only thing we can look forward to for the Falcons is, as you said, Grady, the teams that have Atlanta on their schedule, they get a bye week and the free win. And at least they got Kyle Pitts. Maybe we'll see some Kyle Pitts highlights. I hate that he's playing in that bad of a situation, but it's bad. If Marcus Mariota is your guy and you've got basically, you lost. Calvin Ridley's gone. Russell Gage is gone. Oh man, Atlanta's going to be awful. It sucks too because, man, that stadium is phenomenal. I've seen it. It is unbelievable. John said, order your Baker jersey now, LOL. I don't have to. Maybe, let's see. If you propose to bet, John, I may need you to get yourself a Dak jersey. I've got a few Dak jerseys. Maybe I'll mail one to you. Maybe I won't. But yeah, I won't be wearing a Baker jersey. Don't worry. I'll take that bet, and you will not see a number 6. You will not see a number 6 Mayfield Panthers jersey on this show anytime soon. Grady says, be careful, Bryson. Baker might be the Cowboys quarterback somewhere down the line if Dak goes all Dante Culpepper falling off a cliff style. Dak's better than Dante Culpepper, bro. Stop it. You better stop with that nonsense right now saying Dak's Dante Culpepper. Come on, man. Come on. Dante Culpepper was made by Randy Moss. We all know it. But no, Baker goes to Dallas is to back up Dak. It's to help Dak with his equipment. It is to be maybe Baker goes to Dallas if Dak, please, merciful God, leaves Dallas. And I've always said I'm going with Dak. If Dak leaves, I'm going with him. Johnson says if the Cowboys get to the NFC Championship game, I'll wear a Dak jersey. Well, there's no point in even buying the jersey if that's the case. Cowboys ain't going to no NFC Championship game. But hey, listen, I hope they do. I'm rooting for my quarterback, of course. But that would be fun if to see John's on a Dak jersey. I think you look good in a Dak jersey. That blue and white. Well, I've always said this about the Cowboys. They're a poorly run franchise, and that's the number one reason I've jumped off the Cowboys. I'm just staying with Dak. But one thing I always say, man, the uniforms are classic, man. They're classic. They're a whole heck of a lot better than the freaking Yankees uniform. And let's go Red Sox. 4-game series against the Yankees. That's why I'm wearing my Red Sox hat in the show today. Sorry for the podcast audience. That's why I'm wearing my Red Sox hat. We're beating the Yankees, all right? We're split. We're split, okay? It's a 4-game series from Thursday to Sunday. We'll take 2 off the Yankees. The Yankees will probably smoke us twice at Fenway and get 2 more. And Houston's coming. We got a problem, okay? Houston, we got a problem. They're taking down the Yankees in the postseason. Book it. All right, moving on. I went from Trey Lance is going to work to Baker to who's better than Baker to the Cowboys to Dak to Dante Culpepper. I love this show. I love this show. And I love the people who comment this show. You guys are the best. Let's see. John just said it's the same color. Grady said, I know that comment was just made for the sake of getting under my skin. Yes, it was very much. It was very much to try and get under my skin. No question. All right, last topic of the day. Let's get back on the train. Lamar Jackson. I talked on, speaking of Dak, we were just talking about Dak. I talked about on Monday, Dak making major improvements to his physique. Looks like he's clearly been putting the time in the weight room. Dak himself said during OTAs he lost some of the baby fat. And again, I show the picture of Dak on Monday. Looks great. But he got beat in the offseason training program by another quarterback and one who is looking to get paid, and that is my man, Lamar Jackson. Sorry for the podcast audience. Lamar Jackson. Yes, for the YouTube, Twitter, Facebook audience, that is the 2019 MVP. That is the quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens, looking like Cam Newton. Good night. He has made some improvement. It looks like he's put on like 10 pounds of muscle. So Lamar Jackson's clearly been putting the time in the weight room. There's no question about it. Here's the thing for Lamar Jackson. Now I wasn't big on Lamar coming out of Louisiana, coming out of Louisville. Wasn't sure, his throwing mechanics are weird. There's somebody else who's got, weird throwing mechanics. Had a good rookie year, right? Took over for Joe Flacco, got the Ravens to the playoffs. Of course, we know year 2, won the MVP and did it unanimously. He pulled a Steph Curry and a Tom Brady. And, of course, went out quite unceremoniously in the divisional round at home against the Tennessee Titans, more specifically Derrick Henry, and didn't play that well. The following year, he beat the Tennessee Titans in the playoffs before losing to the Buffalo Bills. And last year, people forget, mid-season, number 1 seed in the AFC, the conference that has by far more elite quarterbacks than the NFC. It was the Baltimore Ravens led by Lamar Jackson who had the number 1 seed in the conference. And Lamar lost a couple games, then got hurt, and the Ravens lost out. They finished 8-9. I think there's a chance that we get a possible second season of the Ravens being the number 1 seed. Because Cleveland, we know about their issues, the Deshaun thing. Now they got, thankfully for them, they got the Baker Mayfield situation off their hands. But Cleveland's a mess. Cleveland gets in their own way. That's what they do. Pittsburgh, I kind of like Pittsburgh as a sneaky wild card team. I think Kenny Pickett, honestly, is a rookie. Kenny Pickett is an upgrade over an old, beat-up Ben Roethlisberger who can't throw the ball more than 15 yards down the field. I kind of like Pittsburgh this year. And Cincinnati, I think, is going to miss the playoffs. I've said that before on my show, and I'll sort of detail that more as we get closer to the season. But let's look at the Ravens schedule for a second. I've got right here. Again, sorry for the podcast audience. Here's the Baltimore Ravens schedule for 2022, okay? So I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing a team that could possibly win 12, 13 games. And in a loaded AFC, that could be enough to get the number 1 seed. Remember, the Titans won 12 games last year, and they got the number 1 seed. So Baltimore plays on the road at the New York Jets. That's a win. Okay, they definitely, no question, beat the New York Jets on the road. Sorry, John, the Jets are a mess, even though they had a good draft. They will come home to play the Miami Dolphins, and I do believe that they will win that game. And then they play the New England Patriots on the road. I think Belichick has something up his sleeve. Belichick always has a good game plan for the Baltimore Ravens, whether it was Joe Flacco, whether it was Lamar Jackson. So I'm actually going to be nice to the Patriots today and give them a win. You guys know I'm since Brady left, I haven't been so high on the Patriots. I think they go to back home to play the Buffalo Bills, and I actually think they win that game. Okay, I think Buffalo's the favorite to come out of the AFC right now, but I think given that Baltimore's got the home field advantage, it's not a primetime game, it's a 1 o'clock game. Lamar Jackson in 2019 played Josh Allen and outplayed him. So I will give them a win there. Then they will go on the road to play their division they're home against their division rival Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to give them a win there. They play at the New York Giants on the road. The Giants are still a mess. They will win that game as well. They will be home against the Cleveland Browns. I believe they win that. They go to Tom Brady's house for a Thursday night game. Short week. I'm giving the GOAT the advantage there. Tampa wins that game. And then long time to prepare for their next opponent, the New Orleans Saints. I'm going to give the Baltimore Ravens a win at New Orleans. It's a tough place to play. Week 10, they got a bye. Week 11, Lamar Jackson gets to outduel Baker Mayfield again against the Carolina Panthers, and they win that one. They go to Jacksonville, definitely a win for the Ravens. They go back home to play the Denver Broncos. I'm actually going to give the Broncos a win. I'm really high on Denver this year. I think that's an 11-12 win football team given their schedule. I think they go on the road, play Pittsburgh, and lose. They always split with Pittsburgh. Those are always great games. They stay on the road. They play Cleveland. They beat Cleveland. They demolish Atlanta in week 16, come home on New Year's Day and beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then their final game of the season, they beat Cincinnati. So how many is that? 4 losses? Let's see. They lose to New England. They lose to Tampa. And they lose to Pittsburgh and Denver. That's 4 losses. That's a 13-4 record for the Baltimore Ravens. And that's what I think is going to happen. I think Baltimore, considering that Lamar has a lot to prove with the contract, considering obviously the loss of Hollywood Brown, I get that. But the constant improvement that Lamar Jackson has made throwing the football since he came to the NFL rookie year, it was rough. Year 2, massive improvement, 36 touchdown passes. Year 3, not the numbers that blew you away, but in terms of the accuracy, the velocity of his throws improved, especially in the second half of that season. And then last year was playing excellent. Led the Ravens on a massive comeback. They said Lamar couldn't play from behind, I thought. Well, he had 2 huge comebacks against the Kansas City Chiefs and the Indianapolis Colts. Okay, Kansas City has this guy named Patrick Mahomes. Maybe you've heard of him. He outgunned him. And then against a Colts defense that has maybe the best linebacker in football, Darius Leonard, and a pretty darn good secondary and pass rush, he came back from 3 scores down to beat the Indianapolis Colts. So this could be, Lamar Jackson might win another MVP. Who knows? Because I think considering the contract story, we know about MVPs. What do we know about MVP races? It's about stories. And the story of Lamar playing for his contractual life with the Baltimore Ravens, he'll have the they don't believe in me mindset. We can see that in the improvements he's made to his body. He'll be dialed in, locked in. 13-4 will be the Baltimore Ravens. You heard it here first. And they'll be the number 1 seed in the AFC. Grady says, thank you for the Patriot love. Listen, I'm objective. I'm not high in the slightest on Mac Jones. Y'all know that. But, listen, Belichick historically has always had a good game plan against Baltimore. I don't know what it is, but he just does. Grady also asks, he says, can we get a how about them Cowboys? Can we get a how about them Cowboys from Jimmy Johnson? And he says that, I know it's July, but that's when the Cowboys are Super Bowl contenders. Well, here you go.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
Okay, you got your day made? All right. But yes, it is when the Cowboys are Super Bowl contenders. And in July, that's when the Cowboy fans start to drink the Kool-Aid. That's when Jerry Jones gets all teary-eyed and puts on a waterworks show at the press conference, talks about this is the most talented team we've ever had, and I would buy Annie Check. I'm worth $8 billion, and I brought Annie Check to win the Super Bowl. And you know how it goes. You know the training camp thing goes. Mike McCarthy will thank God Mike McCarthy will not be in Hard Knocks this year and make some really dumb statements. John says, "Let's go Jets. You guys are going to get smoked by the Ravens." I'm sorry, bro. Let's see. Grady says, "Where's Fireman Ed nowadays, John?" John says Lamar for KD. Yeah. KD actually throws a pretty good football. Him and LeBron had a flag football game during the NBA lockout 10 years ago. And KD's just a solid quarterback. But no, I'm definitely taking Lamar Jackson. No question. John just says he's getting rested, getting ready for 7-8 wins this year. So I'm at, hold on, let me pull it up. Yeah, I'm talking about Fireman Ed. Oh boy. Jets. There's something. Never fail to be in the news for all the wrong reasons, and certainly not in the news for winning. Sorry, John. All right, that's all the time in for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by in the comments. Shout out to Philip. Shout out to Grady. Shout out to John in the comments on today's show. Listen, I know it's a dead period in sports, but we can still have fun with these predictions, right? We talk WNBA, NBA, NFL. Summer League, preseason, playoffs. We talked about, Dante Culpepper came up. Listen, this is what's great about this show. I love carving it up. So I appreciate everybody stopping by. You guys are what makes the show great, of course, in the comments. And I appreciate you guys' support. And for those that have not liked, subscribed, comment, the heck you doing? Hit that big red subscribe button. Helps the channel grow. And also be sure to catch Carve It Up Live tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitter. I may or may not be ranking my top 10 NBA players of all time. So stay tuned for that. And also, be sure to catch the Carving Up podcast. We appreciate our podcast audience as well. Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Anchor, as well as wherever you listen to your podcast, except for Apple, unfortunately. We're trying to get the podcast on Apple. It's giving us some problems. So until tomorrow, hope everybody has a great evening. Stay safe out there. God bless you all. Peace out. I ain't wearing no Baker jersey, John. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.